Now I'm going to do George Michael's transition pictures. George Michael was one of the most nominated people for this transition thing. I don't quite know why, but he did die tragically for such a major talent at the age of 53 in 2016, on Christmas Day actually. He came to prominence in 1981 with Wham! And it was never my sort of thing, Wham! But he was just a presence in our lives for so long. He's written hit after hit after hit. Not only did he provide us with a string of really great songs, such as Careless Whisper, Praying for Time, and so on, but he was a great charity guy. He gave in so many different ways. He was watching Deal or No Deal on TV one night, and one of the contestants said that she needed in vitro fertilization. And so he just paid for that. He just sent in the money. I mean, that's how great a guy he was. And he was always helping with AIDS charities, and he was on Band-Aid, of course. There was just a lot of giving about George Michael. I lost track of him after his initial rush of success in the 80s and early 90s. And I'm not quite sure what happened to him after that. I know there were problems then. People died in his life of AIDS. He was arrested in America for lewd behavior, and I think in Britain as well. There were drug issues. One time I think he fell out of a moving car on the freeway. Just like, what? There were a lot of issues. Anyway, he died at the age of 53 of dilated cardiomyopathy, which can be brought on, it's a heart thing, I think, can be brought on by alcohol abuse or coke abuse. But it can also be genetic. It can actually run in the family. So who knows what it was caused by. But he died in his sleep in 2016 on Christmas Day. And a nation, in fact a world, mourned. Now I should say that when I went into the pictures, I had no idea what to expect, because I don't know what his life was like at the end. The last 10, 15, 20 years. I know that what the headlines were, but I don't know what state of mind he was in, or physically how he was. But I went into the pictures and waited to see what happened. And they were the most bizarre pictures I have seen in these transition images so far. So you need to bear with it. You need to be a little patient, because it's going to seem nutty to begin with. So he came into the pictures. He wasn't walking. He was on a wire that was pulling him. The animating force seemed to have diminished substantially, because his feet were dragging along the ground, making grooves as this wire pulled him along. And as he was going, I felt he was saying something like, I did it. I gave it every shot I had. It seemed almost like the universe, whoever controls these things, was going, coming through, emergency, emergency, coming through. Not with a view to resuscitation or anything mortal, simply like, we have a damaged soul here. There seemed to be a self-esteem issue, or just a feeling of, am I worth all of this? Or do I deserve this? Something to do with his childhood maybe coming back to haunt him? Like, you become huge, absolutely huge, and yet your self-esteem is at a certain level that can't match it, so that you have doubts. No matter how talented you are, no matter how successful, how much money you have, there's still that sense of self-doubt of, will they find me out? Am I that good? Am I worth it? That kind of thing. It felt deflated, this spirit. And the wire carried it along the tunnel. Then when it came to that space that I always see symbolically, where there is that membrane thing, there was no membrane. There was instead this contraption. The wire left him and spread him on the ground and said, there you go. Now it's up to you. But by this time, he was more lively. He felt protected, perhaps. Like the process was starting to work. And it wasn't an ego thing that was stopping him. It was almost like a lack of ego thing. It was the reverse. It was so odd. And he got up and he realized that the current that goes with this process, the shift that happens, was urging him to climb. So he climbs up this ladder into one of those old elevators they have in 1920s hotels and apartment buildings and stuff. And it goes up. He gets out, and there's a pathway. With many of these pictures, the adjustment period that happens is supposed to bring the person down from their mortal ego self to a level where they can cross over into spiritual wholeness. The process seems to be about wearing them down and taking away their mortal persona, their earthly personality and so on, so they can be more authentic and congruent with their spiritual selves. This was the reverse. This was somebody who was below where they should be. And when he got to the top, instead of it being that kind of very, very bright, membraney, soft thing that I normally see, it was just a dome that he could sit inside. Don't know that I understand this as much as I'd like to. He just sat there and I watched him and he looked so forlorn sitting on this bench inside this dome. There was still a fractured sense of his soul. Very interesting. And I thought, well, there you go then. I am leaving you there. Just sitting inside the dome. I couldn't explain it. I didn't know where it was going. And I left him there. I turned around. I walked back towards where the elevator would have been, I guess, if I were going in it. Walked along there. And I turned back. And everything, him, the dome, everything, is floating upwards in streamers of flickering lights. So it struck me that there was, for shattered souls, a spiritual ICU, a spiritual emergency room that resuscitated the spirit and made it able to cross over. And some people whose soul is somehow wrenched apart for whatever reason, they need extra care. And what this seemed to be was a loving embrace. Even though it didn't seem to be like on the surface, but it was like a loving embrace. Coming through, damaged soul. And everything that happened was about bringing the soul back together again. Comforting him. Supporting him. Steering him towards his greater good. Lifting him up. Giving him the chance to be whole. Where he may not have achieved that in life despite his fame, his success and his money and so on. The whole thing had a sense of purpose to it. That we've got to take this guy from down here and put him up here. Where we can make him whole. She's fascinating. I found a quote from Martha Graham. Remember her? The dancer? She's dead now. But she said about artists, really, but it applies to us all in our own particular field. She said, there is a vitality, a life force, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all time, this expression is unique. If you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable it is, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours, clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep open and aware directly to the urges that motivate you. Now, isn't that beautiful? I would say that George Michael was one of those who did that. He just gave his uniqueness to the world, as so many artists do. So that when he came into the pictures, he was sort of, I did it. I gave everything. I gave it all. And the issue is it worth that? Is it worth getting to that point? Or do you stay below your accomplishment threshold? Do you stay on this side of the horizon, or do you go and look what's on the other side? What lies beyond your reach? I don't know. It's a constant philosophical discussion in my own head, actually. But anyway, that's it. I thought that was weird, but utterly fascinating. And it gives us hope, I think. There's hope for us all that there is, at the end of this fabulous mortal existence, no matter what it brings, there is something, some being, some force that is waiting to catch us if we fall. What's even better is that those same forces, if we trust them, are waiting to catch us if we fall while we're alive too. It's just that we don't allow them to. Amazing. Amazing. Alrighty, so thank you very much for watching. I fully appreciate it as always. Subscribe, like, share, follow me on Twitter at CashPeters if you fancy it. Otherwise, I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.